Hello YouTube, we are here in our Land Rover Discovery 2. Now this is a 2001 SE7 and you will notice this has a center diff lock, and this video is going to be about how to use your center diff lock, whether your Land Rover Discovery 2 has a center diff lock, what years don't have it, what you might want to consider if you're going to try and put one in using an aftermarket lever. And in short, Discovery 2s from 99 to 2004, the 99 to 2001 models, my understanding is that they had in their transfer case a little spigot that sticks out of the transfer case that allows you to put on an aftermarket lever. That is this lever here that has a diff lock on it. You can see it's got diff lock, low, neutral, high, and what this gives you is the ability to switch between an actual locked center differential. So that means your one front wheel and one rear wheel will always spin at the same time. Now that's useful in maintaining traction. Obviously the Land Rover's traction control systems are very good in and of themselves, which is why when the Discovery 2s came out, Land Rover thought in their wisdom it wasn't necessary to put a diff lock in, even though the transfer cases had the ability to put them on. So what they decided to do was leave them off, and this is actually a sticker that came on the kit that we got when we put on our diff lock. Now we had somebody do that. Basically you rerun a lever that connects from this lever down into the transfer case, and it lets you, instead of just going from high to low, you can go over to the left and actually lock your diff. You can lock your diff in high. You can lock your diff, high would be down here because that's high, and you can go up and you can go into low, and then you can lock your diff in low. So obviously locking your differential gives you a lot more traction because you know one front wheel, one rear wheel are going to be spinning at the same speed. And if you get one of the front or rear axle wheels spinning, traction control will take over. It uses a braking system, an ABS wheel speed sensor traction control system to actually brake the wheel that's spinning, which then transfers the power to the wheel that has traction. And that's really how Land Rovers work really well. The other thing you get is the ability to use a manual mode when you're in low range that gives you the ability to stay in a gear. You can either be in first, second, third, or drive, which essentially is fourth gear, and it will actually just lock you in that gear. So even if you stop in low range, you're going to start off in that gear, and that can be really beneficial for not spinning your tires at too high of an RPM. And what we're going to do now is I'm going to give you a quick demo on how to switch from for low, or for high to for low. Land Rovers are all-wheel drive, so they're always in a all-wheel drive setting, and you don't have to go from 2 to 4. You just have 4 high, 4 low. So what do you have to do? In a lot of cases you're going to see a sticker just like this one that is going to say step 1, go into neutral. It even shows you the gear lever. So we're going to do that. Our car's on. I'm going to go into neutral. You can see I'm in neutral now. So what does that let me do? Now this lets me go into, it's a little bit of force. Now my gears are unlocked. I'm getting the flashing time, and then I go one more, and now I am in 4 low. Now I switch back into drive, and now I'm going to be in 4 low. So how do you know you're in 4-low? Well, first of all, you're going to see your acceleration is much more powerful. You have a lot more mechanical advantage from using your different gear set. So it's very much like using your granny gears in your bike. You can climb a hill much easier because you're using the mechanical advantage of a bigger gear versus your little small gear on the back of your hub. And so you can accelerate much faster. So what's the next thing I can do? Well, I'm in 4-low, as you can see, because the front, we're on step 2 here. We went up to low. What I want to do now is I want to go into a lock diff scenario. So what you'll notice now is I see this lock diff or diff lock icon that shows up in my dash. What does that mean? That means that between your front wheels and your rear wheels of your car, you are now, that connection is locked. It's no longer spinning freely and being operated based on only the traction control. So you're going to be able to climb hills better. You're going to be able to use low range to go down hills without tire slipping as much. That can be really beneficial. So what do I want to do now? Now I want to go back into, say I just want to take off my diff lock, right? I want to go back into 4-low. I want to let the transfer case spin freely in the center transfer case. I can be in drive. Up to, from what I've read, up to 80 kilometers an hour and engage 4-high. All you do is go over. You go over, now your icon has disappeared. Now this is for Land Rovers that have a diff lock setting. That is really just for anyone who's put in the aftermarket lever or anybody that has a 2004 Land Rover, because in 2004 they actually brought back the ability to lock the center diff. Now, like I said at the beginning of the video, from 99 to 2001, you had a transfer case that could take a diff lock lever. But did you have that installed? You have to do that yourself. Now from 2002, 2003, they changed the transfer cases, and from my understanding, they did not have a spigot that lets you put the diff lock on. I think you can have that spigot installed. I know other people will get transfer cases out of 2001s, 2000 or 99s, and they'll put those into their cars. I guess you can get probably one from a wreck 2004. But at that point, you're going to need to do some aftermarket enhancements or some salvage enhancements, getting used parts from other cars, or talk to Justin at Lucky 8 LLC, Atlantic British, Rover Parts, Rimmer Bros. There's lots of places you can get the lever and even the transfer cases. You know, these parts are kind of becoming more and more available as the Land Rovers don't rust on their bodies and people kick them around a little bit more. So if you have any Discovery 2 from 99 to 2004, you're going to have the ability to go from 4-high to 4-low. So we're in 4-low, so we want to go back now. So what I'm going to have to do, I'm going to have to go back into, you know what I'm going to do before I do this? I'm going to show you one thing. I'm in 4-low. I can press this mode button, and that gives me a M button, which is a way to control your gear. So that means when I'm in drive, I'm in 4th gear, I can go to 3rd, and if I'm in 4-low and I'm in manual mode, which means I have the little M gear icon there, I am always going to be in 3rd gear. From start to high speed, always the same gear. So you're not going to have the transmission shifting gears as you're going up hills, going in tricky obstacles, and that can be really beneficial because you have no point where you're losing forward momentum or drive from the engine into your drivetrain. So you won't have a point where you maybe lose momentum and you might get stuck in some snow or some mud, right? So the same thing goes for second, first. I can be in every one of these gears, and the transmission in manual mode will not change the gears. So that is important to know, because that is actually really useful. It's just fantastic when you're 4x4ing around in some bushes somewhere, or wherever you like to go overlanding. Manual mode, third gear, it just seems like such a perfect gear setup for most of your kind of slowish speed crawling around. Ideal. It was such a well-designed transmission and transfer case setup. So now I want to go back to 4 high. So essentially I'm on my, sorry about this filming here. We are in number 2 right now, so we're up at 4 low. We're going to go back to neutral and then back to high. So we want to make sure we're in neutral again. So I'm in neutral, and now this is, a lever actuated differential, so, or transfer case I should say. So I'm going to go back 1, a little bit of force required. You're going to see your gears not connected icon there, and then back 1 more, and now there's no buzzing or beeping, and that's what we want to hear. That means our gears are engaged. Now we can go back and we can press the mode button again in this case, and now we can get sport mode. So what does sport mode do? Sport mode gives us the ability to not necessarily hold gears, because you can do that in non-sport mode, but what it does is it actually gives you, it will hold the gear a little bit longer in third gear and drive, which is fourth gear. So when you go from second to third, it will shift into third, and then instead of shifting into your overdrive, so overdrive is just a slightly adjusted gear, and I'm probably not doing this justice, but it basically is meant for creating more fuel efficiency. So once you've switched into the gear, it uses a torque converter to give you more fuel efficiency, because you're using what is kind of artificially creating a bigger gear. But it lets you have a period of, as you're going through any of the, whether in sport mode or not, it gives you the correct gear ratio to go from second to third initially, and then you go into your more fuel efficient overdrive version of third gear. And the same thing with fourth gear. But what sport mode does is when you shift to third, it actually stays in third a little bit longer before it shifts into the overdrive, versus when manual mode, when you shift into third, it much more quickly goes to third. It's not a huge deal. I think more than anything, my experience with this is that you get a little bit more. It's kind of driver preference. In some ways it's nice to just have it shift into the overdrive sometimes, but that's my experience. So our engine has been retuned by Mark Adams at Tornado Systems, and it has a high performance tune that's designed to go with our 4.6 liter V8 that actually came from Turner Engineering engine builders in England. And our engine has a high performance cam in it. It has some ported polished heads, aftermarket exhaust. So it has some tune on it, but one thing that Mark Adams told us as we were getting the tune was eventually he was really interested in trying to figure out a way to retune the ECU for the transmission ECU. He wasn't able to get to that at the time that we were doing it, so it is what it is. I say play around with your sport mode in your regular drive settings when you're in 4 high. 4 low, obviously pressing the mode button gives you that manual mode where it holds your gears, but 4 high, pressing the mode button, going to sport mode, it really just affects your going into third and drive or fourth gear, in that it holds the gear a little bit longer before switching into the overdrive setting and giving you that more fuel efficient gear ratio. So I hope you found this interesting, hopefully useful if you're trying to figure out how the heck to use your 4 high, 4 low settings on your Land Rover Discovery 2. Give some comments Subscribe if you found this interesting. I'm trying to spread the knowledge and love of Land Rovers and everything that we've been taught over the years, for better or for worse, about 4x4s. And hope to see you guys all in the trails.